Matthew Colangelo became Biden's number 3. He left from being Biden's number 3 to Bragg's number 2. Oh, gross. Biden stated, if he does run, I'm making sure, under legitimate efforts of our Constitution, he does not become the next president again. What the heck does that mean?
It's so important for us to fight for education, because when we do that, we can aspire to careers that will help change what goes on in this country and have a real democracy.
Alvin Bragg facing an uphill battle now that Congress is looking at him. They want him to come testify, but that's not it. He's also got another complaint filed his way from America First Legal saying that Bragg colluded with Joe Biden, which we know is obviously true because Matthew Colangelo came over there. He was the DOJ third in command under Joe Biden. So what's happening here? Well, this report comes from America First Legal, and they actually filed a complaint against Bragg, and we're looking forward to seeing where this one goes, because here's what they report. FEC problem. Sorry. Remember, Trump was getting hit all over the place. This was a conspiracy to get him to get elected in 2020. And 2016, the NDA with Stormy Daniels and all that nonsense. They called it a conspiracy. It was one of some various object crimes. We still don't know which one it was, but it could have been an FEC violation, or it could have been a state election violation, or it could have been a tax crime. But so here they're saying, oh, Alvin Bragg, you committed that exact crime that you're alleging that Trump committed. So evidence reveals that Bragg has committed a political prosecution with the sole intent of helping Joe. Here's some background on this before we read through the filing. In December of 2022, remember that Bragg reportedly hired Colangelo, the Biden prosecutor. He came over for some reason. Apparently this was, Bragg said, because he has a history of taking on Donald Trump and his family business. Remember this one? Colangelo had already done this when he was working at Tish's office. So he went from Obama to Tish to Biden to Bragg. So he joins because he's got this experience. He left his post as the number 3 in the DOJ, a move that reeks of partisanship. Why would you get a demotion? Why are you going to go work for Alvin Bragg? All right. You're number 3 at the DOJ, the biggest justice system department in the entire world. You're number 3 for the United States of America, and you're going to go work for Alvin Bragg now. Okay, some peon line prosecutor? Give me a break. So here's what Gene Hamilton said on Matthew Colangelo. Nobody leaves being the number 3 at the DOJ to go work at the DA's office. Nobody, period. No one does that. It's something completely out of the ordinary, which is obviously true. There's Colangelo
been a
standing
misdemeanor
back there.
into a felony, saying that, you know, it was conducted with the intent to commit another crime, and that other crime was a conspiracy to get him elected in 2016. What do you think about this?
Ridiculous.
Look, those are all legitimate points. Those are all really critical issues that are going to be the focus, I think, for some appeals that come in the near future from President Trump. But let's talk about all these underlying circumstances. Let's talk about Matthew Colangelo. You're exactly right. Nobody leaves being the number 3 at the Department of Justice to go work in a district attorney's office.
There he is.
Period. No one does that. That's not normal. It's something completely out of the ordinary. Let's talk about the judge. Let's talk about the fact that he's a donor, of course, to President Biden. His daughter is beneficiary of a lot of Democratic support.
Works for Joe.
We are looking at a situation here in the United States that we only used to see in what we would call banana republic.
No,
and yet
it
it is
country.
happening in front of our very eyes in the United States.
All right, that is our country now. So this gentleman is named Gene Hamilton. He's the vice president and general counsel for America First Legal, who is behind this complaint against Bragg that we're going to read here in a minute. But it's so weird, this shift from number 3 to Bragg's number 2. Oh, I like that one. Yeah, Matthew Colangelo became Biden's number 3. He left from being Biden's number 3 to Bragg's number 2. Oh, gross. He sued the DOJ last week to obtain Colangelo's government records discussing President Trump before leaving his post. So we're going to read through that complaint here in a minute. And beyond his position at the DOJ, Colangelo also previously held a senior position for Tish. He was Tish's number 2. Both of these entities had competing investigations related to President Trump. And notably, before joining the Biden DOJ, Colangelo contributed several times to Alvin Bragg. Look at that. 2019, $500 as an individual. $500 for Colangelo. Another $250 from Colangelo. All going to Alvin Bragg. And Bragg was running against Trump. He was running to stop Trump. That was part of his campaign, just like Tish was. It was a whole era of stopping Trump. Got it. So the available information indicates that Bragg's hush money prosecution was coordinated, was made in cooperation or consultation with Biden. Now, effectively, Bragg acted in cooperation, consultation, and in concert with Biden to influence this year's election. And without denying the existence of the communications between Biden and the Bragg office, Merrick Garland refused during congressional hearings to commit to turning over the communications. And they did just send a letter recently saying, we checked our email. We didn't find anything suspicious. And so you guys just shut your mouths, okay? It's dangerous. Stop accusing us of doing something bad. side. So, of course, Garland didn't answer anything. The overall records in these matters that include Colangelo's jumpstarting of the case was dead. Bragg decided not to prosecute it. That's why Mark Pomerantz and Kerry Dunn resigned. Then Colangelo came back over and poof, case comes back alive. Garland's refusal to disclose the communications in Biden's campaign and press events immediately after the trial indicate that the hush money prosecution was made to harm Trump would not have been made if Trump were not a candidate. Now, because the information and available information supports a conclusion that this was political, if the prosecution is political, then guess what? It's an in-kind contribution, just like they said that the Cohen situation was with Trump and he falsified business records. So it's an in-kind contribution. Alvin Bragg is committing millions of dollars in anti-Trump political opposition lawfare, and he's only allowed to give $3,300. Instead, he's contributing much more against Trump in the tune of millions of dollars. The outlined information includes the fact that they violated their disclosure obligations. And because Bragg was in a coordinated expenditure, the Biden campaign had to report it as a receipt, and they didn't. And so we're filing a complaint with the Federal Election Committee, and here's what it looks like. So our friends at America First Legal, doing amazing work out there, submit this one. Dear Alvin Bragg, we have a complaint against you that's now going to the FEC. We hope you enjoy it. America First Legal brings this complaint before the FEC. We want an investigation right now. We want enforcement against Bragg and Biden because they violated the FEC. Now, Biden, the incumbent candidate in 2024, he looked to Lawfare to destroy Trump because he's got no other policies. And he made the following statement regarding Trump's prospect in November of 2023. Probably fix that there for you guys. Got that covered for you. It says, if he does run, I'm making sure he, under the legitimate efforts of our Constitution, does not become the next president again. In coordination with Biden and his campaign, New York County District Attorney Bragg resurrected this so-called hush money case, this zombie case, as part of that lawfare strategy against Trump, under a legal theory that his predecessor had previously sent back into the grave, yes, out of concerns the felony charges would not hold up in court. Colangelo comes back, joins, and the case is resurrected. Politico article back from April this year. Now, by pursuing this politically motivated prosecution against Trump, Bragg made an excessive contribution to Joe Biden. Illegal contributions. And Biden accepted this. And they probably falsified business records. And so Biden violated U.S. code, that section, by failing to provide the required disclosures. Now they say, let's tell you a little bit more about us, AFL, America First Legal. Awesome organization. They have a mission, which is to promote the rule of law, due process, equal protection, protect individual rights, uphold the Constitution. And in furtherance of its mission, they hold accountable our unethical, illegal, disgusting government officials. How do they do that? Well, they gather information and they file complaints. That's what they're doing here today. And we rely on you, the FEC, to properly administer this act so you can hear our complaints and act appropriately. Now, let me tell you about the people here. We've got Alvin Bragg. We got Biden for president. We know who he is. But here are the facts of the case, FEC. To influence the 2024 election, Biden and his allies have pursued lawfare to physically remove Trump from the campaign trail, keep him bogged down in a freezing courtroom, drain his resources, millions of dollars, and it's harming his reputation. Now he's a convicted felon and potentially disqualifying from the ballot. Now, regarding Trump's prospects in 2024, 2022 probably, Biden stated, if he does run, I'm making sure, under legitimate efforts of our Constitution, he does not become the next president again. What the heck does that mean? As New York County DA, Bragg contributed to this strategy by resurrecting this hush money zombie case. Now, there was a legal theory that his predecessor, Cy Vance, had previously sent back into the grave. The case concerned federal subject matter identical to what the feds investigated and declined to prosecute in 2018. And Bragg's prosecution also relied heavily on Michael Cohen, a felon convicted of lying to Congress with a demonstrable animus towards Trump, who also admitted that he stole from Trump in the middle of the trial and lied again to the federal judge when he took his plea deal. In February 2022, two prosecutors leading the case, we know them as Mark Pomerantz and Kerry Dunn, they resigned because Bragg, quote, had doubts about moving forward. They wrote about it in his book. Pomerantz threw a hissy fit. But even Pomerantz acknowledged that the charges would rely on untested legal theories. Did he put that in his book too? Or that was in an article. So by virtue of holding office, Bragg's most dangerous power is that he will pick people he thinks he should get, and they'll prosecute because they're biased. Now, New York professional rules say you're not supposed to do that. Prosecutors have professional conduct to follow. Everything needs to be supported by probable cause, but that's not what happened here. Bragg resurrected this dead case. Now he's relying on untested legal theories. And during his campaign, when he was even running for this office, he reminded voters frequently that in his former job, he sued Trump more than 100 times. Are you kidding me? Yeah, I went after Trump all the time because he used to work for Tisch. Or I think he was a lower level at the DA for Cy Vance. evidence. But Bragg would not have prosecuted Trump but for Trump's candidacy. They made their whole careers on Trump. Tisch and Bragg, their whole basis for being in their position of power is because of Trump. Bragg's commitment to getting Trump gained him the support of senior Biden political operatives. One day after Bragg announced his primary campaign against his predecessor, Bragg received a contribution from Chirag Baines. And Chirag Baines would later become the deputy assistant to Biden. Oh, so Biden deputy assistants are donating to Bragg. Isn't that fun? On June 29th, Bragg also got a contribution from Adam Hickey, who would later serve as a senior official in Biden's DOJ. Oh, so more Biden acolytes all funding Bragg. Now, his commitment to getting Trump also gained him the support of George Soros, which we talked about in Color of Change. Now, on May, the PAC for Color of Change endorsed Bragg. Then Soros gave them $1 million, and about half that went over to Bragg. Between 2019 and 2021, Soros' son, Jonathan Soros, and his wife, Jennifer, made 5 separate contributions to Bragg's campaign. Yeah, so that's also a curious thing. Everyone looks up the Soros money, but you gotta look at the Soros family. A lot of money comes from them, and nobody looks up them. In December, New York District Attorney 2022, Alvin Bragg, reportedly hired Colangelo to, quote, jumpstart the investigation of Trump, because Colangelo has a history of taking on the Trump family business. Colangelo also sent in a bunch of money to Bragg 3 times. He served as senior positions in the DOJ and the New York AG's office, which was Tisch's office, so worked for Biden and Tisch, both who hate Trump. And at the Biden DOJ, he served as the politically appointed acting AG, the number 3. Despite this link, AG Merrick Garland has refused to give us his communications, and this is updated. Garland has now said, we checked, we don't have any communications at all. Sorry, we don't have anything to give you, and stop accusing us of being monsters. On April 4th, 2023, Bragg then indicted Trump. And then the Biden Victory Fund, a joint funding representative for Biden for president, got another $250 grand, $250,000 from Soros. Then $350, and then another $303. So about $1 million comes in to Biden. Now, on the final day of the trial, the Biden campaign held a press conference. They dragged out that Robert De Niro guy. Oh, that guy across the street from the courtroom. Moments after the jury verdict, the Biden campaign posted the statement. They said, in New York today, we saw that no one's above the law, convicted felon or not. Trump will be the Republican nominee. The threat that Trump poses to our democracy has never been greater. Got it. So Alex Soros now, who is the heir to Daddy's committee that spent $32 million, stated that Democrats, so Soros, his other son, went up there, and he said Democrats should refer to Trump as a convicted felon at every opportunity. And we played that tweet here because this is their new label. It's their new moniker. They have nothing else positive to talk about. So repetition is the key to a successful message, they say. We want people to wrestle with the notion of hiring a felon. Now, on the same day, Color of Change also issued a statement saying Bragg's prosecution of Trump was a fruit of our labor. So Color of Change is very happy. They're like, oh, perfect. To obtain the verdict, Bragg's office contorted the law, however, and among other things, they violated the Supreme Court doctrine known as primary jurisdiction doctrine, which says that a court should stay or dismiss a claim when it implicates issues within the special competence of a federal administrative agency, which would have been the FEC. Now, the commission failed to find a reason to believe that Trump violated the act, and he didn't get charged with it when the feds did some analysis on this. But they don't care. They're going to use it against him. Bragg's prosecution has literally physically removed Trump from the campaign trail. It's drained his resources, it's harmed his reputation, and it's disqualified him from the ballot in certain jurisdictions, potentially. So all of that is election interference. It's federally funded, government-funded election interference happening right now. So under the act, they tell us what are in-kind contributions. All right, well, they said that the NDA for Trump and Stormy was all in-kind, campaign conspiracy, contributions, and so on and so forth. Well, what about this? What about prosecuting your entire opponent? Available information says that Bragg's hush money prosecution was coordinated with Biden. It was made in cooperation or at the request or the suggestion of Biden. He made that announcement in 2022. Now, the FEC Office of the General Counsel has consistently recommended the commission find reason to believe that acts by a third party to influence an election result in a contribution. If you're helping somebody, that counts. So the available information also includes strong circumstantial indications that these two, Bragg and Biden, coordinated together. Bragg reportedly hired Colangelo right out of the DOJ, and he admitted that he hired him to jumpstart his office's investigation. Footnote 50 from this article from the New York Times. New York Times reports that Bragg wanted to jumpstart his office's case, so he took Biden's number 3. Alvin Bragg made him his number 2. Now, despite that link between the Biden DOJ and Bragg's office, Merrick Garland refused to give us information about this. And on the final day of trial, Biden sent his campaign out there. Moments before the verdict, the campaign posted a statement, no one's above the law, except Hunter Biden and Joe Biden. Now, in analyzing whether this ultimately is a contribution or an expenditure, we got to ask ourselves, themselves about whether it had a purpose of influencing an election. Obviously, this does. They say other advisory opinions give us some guidance on this, but the commission has already previously found that an activity by or in connection with a federal candidate, including things like this, could impact the federal election. And with respect to Bragg and Trump, however, the inescapable inference here is that Bragg acted in cooperation with Biden, and they did it to interfere with 2024. Now, the overall record in these matters, including Colangelo's, quote, jumpstarting of the case, Garland's refusal to disclose communications, Biden's press event, and statement immediately after the trial, demonstrates that the purpose of this prosecution was to harm Trump, would not have been brought except for Trump running for president. Because the available information supports this conclusion, we think this was a coordinated expenditure. In fact, it was. And this expenditure is over the $3,300 you're allowed in any election. So Bragg should be charged. Now, the available information indicates that Biden violated his disclosures as well, failed to provide the required contribution information. This clearly was a coordinated expenditure between these two, and we have no idea how much it cost, what kind it was, and so on. And so the act and the commission regulations prohibit this. And so as detailed above, we think that there was an excessive contribution violation that happened here, and the act prohibits that. So these various counts, in conclusion, we ask now that the FEC conduct an investigation. We want you to declare that Bragg and Biden violated the FECA and the FEC regulations, and order Biden to correct these violations by filing public reports identifying the coordinated expenditures, and we want sanctions as well. We want to take further action as may be appropriate, including referring this matter to the DOJ for criminal prosecution. Respectfully submitted by America First Legal Foundation, doing amazing work. Shout out to our friends Julie Z H, Reed R, Daniel Z, Julia, and Michael D, all over from America First Legal, sending this one in response to the lawfare and the criminality and the violation of election law that Bragg and Biden have engaged in. But some people are very happy about this. They love people like Alvin Bragg. They love Tish James. They love Fani Willis because, well, they're taking out their political opponents. Here's what Maxine Waters said.
It's so important for us to fight for education, because when we do that, we can aspire to careers that will help change what goes on in this country and have a real democracy. I want to give you an example of it. Right now, as Trump is on trial, you have Letitia James in New York, you have Fani Willis in Georgia, and you have Tanya Chunkin, who is a judge, who all have a role to play now, prosecutors and judges. And if we're ever to change the criminal justice system and get some justice, we've got to be in there.
Okay, so that's what they're doing now. They're using all of these prosecutors to get in there and be a part of whatever they call the American democratic process, which means electing American Democrats. That's all that means. So interesting filing from America First Legal. We are grateful that they're out there digging into this, filing lawsuits. You know where to support them on X and elsewhere. And so we'll be here continuing to cover this. We'll see what Bragg says, what his responses are as this coverage continues. Thank you, my friends, for subscribing wherever it is you're watching this and hitting that like button real quickly. We'd appreciate that as well. We've got another great segment coming up. We're going to be talking about Steve Bannon and his emergency appeal. That's in our next segment. You're going to see that right over there, and we'll see you over there in the next one.